Thank you to the organisers of this conference. It's a real pleasure to be here today, and I get to talk about my favourite topic, which is the role that business schools can play in this field of social enterprise. And what I wanted to do was to look at Columbia Business School's social enterprise program as a case study of sorts, and to describe how we've developed over the years, and then to provide some ideas and thoughts for discussion for the panelists. And I have some questions about how the program's growth and development and the key learnings that we've experienced, whether they're applicable in the Korean context. So I wanted to talk through how the purpose of the social enterprise program has changed over time and what's caused some of those changes and how it's impacted our mission and the student interest at Columbia Business School, some priority focused setting areas for centres and programs as they think about how to innovate for their students in this space, challenges and lessons that we've learned at Columbia Business School in integrating it across the school and why we pursued the integration model. And then finally, from 2009 going forward, what are some areas that we're thinking about as future areas for development, future areas of growth. So, I'm lucky because today Dean Hubbard and Professor Ray Horton made my job relatively easy. Not always the case, but they've already talked about how the program has shifted and how its scope expanded. So the history is, in 1983, Professor Ray Horton was the founding director. And as Dean Hubbard explained, its focus was very explicitly narrow on public and nonprofit management and serving the relatively small number of students who are interested in careers in that field. But in 2000, in consultation with the dean at the time, it was renamed the Social Enterprise Program. And its mission was explicitly to address all students who come through Columbia Business School, regardless of what sector that they went into, regardless of the organisational type that they joined, and also to train business school students for a lifetime career of contributing to social and environmental problems, whether, as Ray Horton mentioned, as different roles like non-profit leaders, philanthropists, non-profit board members, business executives thinking about strategies about how to address social and environmental challenges, volunteers. There are many roles that our graduates go on to play. And people like Chul Young and other alumni in Korea are classic examples. And as a fellow alum of Columbia Business School, I'm proud that our alumni play a really critical role in developing social enterprise in Korea. And we have many, many examples of our alumni going on to do very interesting things. There's something about being agnostic, if you like, about what type of sector or organizational type that social enterprise covers. An example is in the area that Professor Bruce Usher teaches, in environmental issues. In the area of climate change, we have graduates who work for advocacy organizations, NGOs, who are working on policy issues related to Obama's administration and legislative change and climate change. We have graduates that work in large multinational companies looking at alternative energy, green business, greening the supply chain, being more energy efficient. We have graduates who are working at startup ventures in the field of wind energy, solar energy. So it doesn't matter whether you're an entrepreneur, whether you're working for a large business, whether you're working for an NGO, an advocacy organization, or whether you're a public official. The solution to some of these, very difficult environmental issues requires people from all sectors to think about and collaborate across sectors to solve these social problems. So the purpose of social enterprise is deliberately very broad, and it's an umbrella for people across many different organizations to come together. And there's really interesting learning that happens with our student body because they're focused on the problem or the area rather than getting caught up in the details of the type of organization that they want to join. So in the end of this academic year, Professor Ray Horton is actually stepping down as academic director of the Social Enterprise Program, and Ray Fissman will be appointed the new faculty director. So we're going through a leadership transition at this time. And as part of that, we're thinking through how do we articulate our mission given where we are and that we've had more than 25 years of social enterprise at Columbia Business School. And so this mission statement is actually quite new, hasn't been shared in the in a public forum before. So, the tweak here is that we're going to focus, we're going to continue to focus on curricular and extracurricular activities for our students, but that the creation and communication of new ideas, innovative ideas by faculty is going to be of increasing importance. So that gives you a sense of, how the mission and purpose of the Social Enterprise Program has changed over time. I wanted to talk a little bit about scope. We've had some, conversations today about what's the difference between corporate responsibility. There's been not so much talk about international development. But one thing that we did probably 4 or 5 years ago was we polled our students and we asked them, what areas are you interested in career-wise? How do you see yourself playing a social or environmental innovator role in your careers? And they came up with a really long list, 15 areas, and there is no way that you can focus on 15 areas. And so, what we did was some sorting and grouping. And so those 4 areas that are listed reflect the thematic areas that comes under the social enterprise umbrella. It's thematic areas that we think through our course development, summer internships, career support, research projects. These thematic areas are sort of slices into the social enterprise program and the courses and extracurricular activities that we do. They're all equally important. Public and nonprofit management, is sort of the core of where this program started. International development is a really growing significant area for Columbia Business School. We have a very international student body who are very concerned about not just what's happening in the US, but around the world. The focus not just on American but international problems is a really important growth area of broadening, creating broad-minded, well-rounded graduates. So I'd encourage, your business school to not just focus on your local domestic issues while they're important, but to give your students a sense of, what's happening in the world. Social entrepreneurship, which is, some discussion today about the start of new social ventures, for-profit, non-profit, and corporate responsibility and sustainability. Actually, this area, green business, alternative energy, is a huge area of student growth and interest. A lot of students see opportunities around alternative energy, supply chain issues, energy efficiency. We see this area as one of the really interesting and key areas of innovation, especially with policy changes happening in the US. Another way to think about the development of your programs and centres at your business schools is through this sort of a framework. Most centres and programs have programmatic activities across these 4 topic areas. Curriculum, courses, it's the bread and butter of what an education is. Experiential learning, incredibly important for your students. Things like pro bono consulting projects, helps connect students to field study projects with organisations. Internship opportunities, career opportunities. Research is a critical part of what faculty hopefully focus on to help seed new ideas and to examine what's happening in the field. And outreach activities, connecting your students and your faculty to organisations beyond the school's boundaries. These areas are not mutually exclusive, they support one another. An example, field studies where students go and perhaps travel to another country and examine social enterprise in another area. So we often fund faculty to go and travel with them. Sometimes those faculty have never expressed an interest in social enterprise before. They go, they travel, they are converted, they see with their own eyes. We've had instances of faculty develop new courses, write case studies as a result of those experiences. So these activities, support each other. So it's not that you have to only do one or another. You have to do a little bit of all of them. But you also have to prioritise in an environment of scarce resources in academia. One useful thing we did a couple of years ago was to think through feedback mechanisms to figure out where we should focus our priorities. We polled our students and alumni, and we also talked to other schools. We get together at there's something called the annual Net Impact Conference, where we do see administrators and faculty at other schools. We get a sense of what's happening across not just the US, but it's an international conference, so we do see what's happening. And through that, we developed a sense of what our priorities are and what our competitive position is, because, as in Korea, we're competing for resources, for the best students, for faculty, with other top business schools. And as part of that process, one of the things we realized was curriculum development is absolutely key. In the development of a top-rate business school program, high-quality courses, not just a volume of courses, but courses that are taught well, that have amazing case studies, that inspire students, is the bedrock of your program. And the first stage of development, as I'm calling it, from 1983 to 2002, the focus was on curriculum development. And if you remember back to the mission, it was around public and non-profit management, but there was some limited activities around careers. So we had a summer internship program, and there was a one-year grant program for students who worked in the public and non-profit sector. In 2003, the big innovation was we actually sat down and did some serious planning and did a 5-year strategic plan. It sounds almost Marxist, but it was a really valuable experience with our advisory board, who pushed us to think about what resources we needed at the school, to think about the metrics that we would judge ourselves by, and to think about what areas we wanted to improve on. And focusing on quality of courses was clearly number one, as well as expanding our experiential learning programs, which are actually quite resource intensive, both in terms of staff time and in terms of funding, but create a lot of opportunities for our students to engage and learn about this field. So things like the pro bono consulting projects, international development consulting projects, was developed at this time. We have a non-profit board program where we staff and match students with alumni who sit on non-profit boards, and they get some experience about non-profit governance. The social venture competition, there's a lot of opportunities for our students to learn in a practical way about this field. And we also did some research activities, symposia, a few research projects, etc. But I would say, going forward, what I'm calling our third stage of development is a greater focus on research and outreach for our program. So if you think about these programmatic areas, in a sense, the focus of our attention has shifted from left to right. And I think that probably for us was the right sequencing of, it's not that you don't do one or the other as you start up in a relatively new programs, but as your program becomes more established, I think research and outreach become much more important. It's, again, not mutually exclusive, and these areas do complement one another. So where are we after the end of this 5-year strategic plan? In 2008 was our final year of the 5-year strategic plan. As Ray mentioned, we have currently about 40% of students at Columbia Business School who are interested in this area. And I heard a comment earlier to say, well, maybe that's just a US thing, and in Korea, students are, I think someone described it as more passive and not interested in this area. But to give you an idea, we changed our name to Social Enterprise in 2000. In 2000, 2001, 2002, there maybe were 50 students who were interested in this area. Now that number is 450, 500 students every year. So that growth in student interest was, for us, phenomenal. So while you're looking at, there are some things that contributed to that growth. One is we've seen a shift in values of students, but as Ray mentioned, when you build a quality program, you attract amazing students. So, if you focus on what is the bedrock, which is high quality curricular content, it has the potential to generate more student interest. When you have some experiential learning opportunities, field studies, etc., students who perhaps hadn't thought about this field become very interested in this field. And what we've seen is a snowball effect. Their peers and tell them about the experiences they've had, and it generates more and more interest. So I challenge, or it's a question for the panel perhaps, as to whether there really is less interest in Korea versus the US. My suspicion is that if the focus on building a high-quality program will actually generate a lot of interest in Korea. In terms of where we're at in our experiential learning programs, we have excess demand. Our challenge right now is servicing the very high student demand across all the different programs. We have amazing events which are largely student-run, almost 70 or 80 events every year, and we couldn't do all of this activity without our students. So I wanted to go back to curriculum development because it's such a critical area for development of social enterprise at business schools in Korea. And I wanted to give you sort of a snapshot of how our courses have developed from 2002 to 2008. And I think the thing about the philosophy we've had with courses is that we wanted both coverage over the 4 different thematic areas, public and nonprofit, social, entrepreneurship, corporate responsibility, but we also didn't want to grow the curriculum too fast. Part of it is making sure that the courses that are offered by your program are first rate, that when a student takes a social enterprise program course, that they're, in a sense, the opportunity cost is that they're not taking something else that's offered at the business school. And Columbia Business School has an amazing array of electives. And so for them to make that choice, the courses that we offered, we wanted it to be like an amazing experience. So there's a lot of focus that we have on evaluation. As any good nonprofit, we evaluate and report to our advisory board both the quality of the course, the content, as well as the quality of instruction, the professors. So it's important as you think about the development of your programs to think about the metrics that you have for success. And we're proud that our course content and our professors are rated on average higher than the school-wide average. Our enrollments are higher on average than the school-wide enrollments. And we see, for example, we have a course bidding system where students have to bid on the elective courses that they want. Social enterprise courses fill fastest. They fill in the first or second round. So we see, there's a lot of demand, and it's also reflective of the high-quality course content. I wanted to just flash this up. This is something that's available on our website, but it's another way that we explain to prospective students how to link these courses to their career interests. So we not only list elective courses that we've initiated as part of the social enterprise program, but also courses that are offered by other divisions at the school. Because if you want to be a social, to start a social venture, you need to take the pure entrepreneurship classes. You need to take finance classes. You need to take courses on organizational behavior. So it's not just taking the specialized courses, but we want to help our students get a broad education. And this was a really interesting and helpful way, I think, for our prospective students to think about their career in a holistic, and the courses that they take in a holistic way. So where we, what's next for our curriculum development from 2009 onwards? I think our concerns are around staffing depth. We don't have enough of our faculty time we would love to offer multiple sections of some of our courses because there's so much demand. We would love to expand social enterprise into 2 other areas of the school. We have both the full-time MBA program and executive MBA program, which is for more senior MBA students, as well as executive education, which is a non-MBA certificate program, like short custom courses, 1 or 2 weeks. And we just don't have enough amazing faculty to go around. So we don't want to drop quality, but we would love to offer more courses in the other programs across our school. The policy question that I wanted to perhaps throw open to the panel for discussion is where to focus the attention on. Do you focus on elective courses or do you focus on the core curriculum? There are pros and cons of both. Elective courses was the initial focus of social enterprise in the early days. Much easier to find faculty to develop a standalone course. However, the core curriculum has huge impact in that it touches every single MBA student. But there are pros and cons of those 2 approaches, and social enterprise program has had a predominant focus on elective courses for reasons that I can go into a little bit later. We pursued an integration model at Columbia Business School. We wanted the program not just to be a separate center that focused on a separate cohort of students. We wanted to integrate social enterprise across the business school. We looked at faculty across every discipline and division to identify their research areas of interest, potential teaching areas of interest. We're in New York, so we have an amazing potential talent pool of adjunct faculty members, and we look for adjunct faculty who we thought would be amazing teachers. And we do a lot to try and support the encouragement of new course development, case writing, helping them with teaching assistants, etc. We also spent a lot of time trying to integrate social enterprise effectively across the business school. Functional areas like career management or your career office, admissions, which touches all the prospective incoming students, alumni and external relations, public relations and marketing. All areas of the school need to understand your mission, what you're up to, new exciting stuff that's happening so that the communication is consistent across the school. It's a huge role, so you need amazing staff working for your centre or program. There are also many other centres and programs at Columbia Business School. An example is the Entrepreneurship Centre at Columbia is actually the area that runs the Global Social Venture Competition at Columbia. And, while they focus on social entrepreneurship in terms of the competition, we focus on social entrepreneurship for courses, experiential learning, career support, etc. So the activities that come under this umbrella need to be infused across the school because there are so many resources in other centres or programs. And to not leverage the strengths and capabilities across your school or institution is a real shame. Also at Columbia we have the Earth Institute, and students love to do projects with them. Another constituency is the students. We have some of the best students. We're really excited that there's so much student interest, and they have a very vibrant student club environment where they can innovate and think about things to service their members. And so we're very supportive of the events, the conferences, the speakers that they bring in, the field studies that they want to organise. A lot of the innovation actually in the social enterprise program has been initiated by students. Even the Global Social Venture Competition was brought to Columbia by an exchange student who went to Berkeley, had that experience, and then talked with all of us at Columbia and said we should be partners. And that was actually the original, the origins of that partnership between Haas Berkeley School as well and Columbia in the very early days. Things like the nonprofit board program was originally initiated by a Columbia MBA student, but the program or your centre plays a critical role in that institutional support because your students will graduate after 1 or 2 years, and the program has to be the source of learning so that these programs can get better and better because your students are a transient population. Another lesson of this integration model is, fostering faculty interest, as I mentioned, as well as, infusing it across the school because there are resources elsewhere, not just ones contained within your particular centre. So looking forward, as I mentioned, I think our focus will be both maintaining and increasing the quality of the curriculum, maintaining and increasing the quality of experiential learning activities, but there will be more focus on research, in particular because social enterprise is still a relatively new field. There's so much opportunity for really top quality academic research in this area, as well as outreach. I think reflective of our mission, it's been very focused on servicing MBA students, which is somewhat, while there has been outreach to organisations, there are some activities and areas that we're thinking of that will help us better connect to our community. An example is Ray Horton is actually going to be running the executive education program when he steps down from his current role. Executive education, again, is the short custom courses which for social enterprises and corporations interested in social enterprise. That would help, forge connections between industry, non-profits, social enterprises, social entrepreneurs, and the school. I mentioned broader faculty engagement in research and research projects, thinking through data needs of faculty, research analysts that would be useful for research projects. And another area on outreach, as our student population is much more savvy around online social networking tools, we're thinking through strategies for that area to help them connect, since social enterprise is such a large umbrella. So, going forward, there is, you know, if your mission is to make the world a better place, your mission is never fulfilled and never done. And, you know, I'm excited to, perhaps I'll stop here and interested to hear what our panel might be interested in delving into or discussing further. Thank you.